Hey, it's Aaron. Today I have a question from Mike. Mike wants to know when we're going to see new car inventory rise again and dealer markups go down or go away. This is a pretty good question. It's one that's been asked several times. I have answered it a few months ago with a video, and there's a few things to update, so I think it's worth answering this question again. This is one of those things that's dynamic. It's going to change over time. Now we have a little more information, so we might have a better idea of what kind of timeline we're looking at as far as waits for the inventory to start catching up again. The bad news there, it's probably going to be a while. It's not going to be really soon. So what Mike is specifically asking is, when will dealerships have more inventory, and when will dealership markups either reduce or go away? Not very easy to answer. So to answer the first part, we are maybe in the very first part of getting to where inventory starts to catch up. We might be there. That might be happening, but it's very hard to say. If we are, it's very, very early in that game. To answer the second question, until the first problem is fixed, the second one is going to exist. So we're not going to get rid of markups until there is more supply than demand, or as much supply as there is demand, and then that all will even out. Adding on top of this, there is no escape route. The escape route is usually to go to the used car market, but the used car market has seen even bigger gains in terms of valuations and costs than the new car market has as a result of the new car market. Here's what's going on. What's happening is we've had a constriction in logistics. So automakers have not been able to get the parts to make cars. Chips are the biggest one, but there are other things that are also affected in depending on the vehicle you're looking at, and some of the technologies included with it. So there's a whole bunch of problems that are causing automakers to not be able to be at peak production. And that's been going on for a while. For a short while, there was almost no production. And while during that time, all the inventory that was in stock pretty much sold, which meant that there were no dealerships didn't have stuff sitting on the lot, and manufacturers didn't have stuff sitting in their lots ready to be shipped, which is the norm. Most manufacturers aim for somewhere around 30 days supply. So they want to be 30 days ahead of themselves in production. And that, I don't think any manufacturer has that now. I don't think that exists anywhere in automotive. So what that means is that supply is down. Because supply is down, prices are up. Dealerships can mark up vehicles and people will still buy them. Most vehicles now are seeing somewhere between $5,000 and $10,000 in average markup. So you can't buy a car for what the sticker says on the window. You'll be referring to next to it, that dealer sticker, or the marker that was used to write in the bottom to add what their markup is. So that's what's going on right now. There are a handful of dealerships that are still holding out and still selling at MSRP. Those dealerships are going to see, hopefully, more customer loyalty as a result down the line. But honestly, the way the market works, that's a fickle proposition. I doubt it's going to happen. So the question is, when is this going to end? Well, it's possible that we're seeing the very, 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 very first signs that this is starting to reverse. And I put a lot of varies in front of that because it's really subjective as to whether or not these are good signs. But we're seeing a little bit happening in the market where there are more of certain vehicles coming out. There are dealerships that have more inventory on the lot, and there are just a little more in terms of availability around the country. But it's very spotty, and it hasn't necessarily resulted in lower markups. Most of what we're seeing from dealerships in terms of their advertising and like videos that salespeople put out, that kind of stuff, most of what we're seeing is they have more vehicles on the lot, but they aren't necessarily the most sought after vehicles that particular dealership sells. So they're not the high-selling versions of vehicles or the high-selling models on the lot. They are others that somehow happened to get made and ended up there and are not selling because it's not really what people are generally looking for. So you have that issue. That's like here in Wyoming, if I happen to drive by one of the dealerships here, I won't name make or brand or anything like that, but I happen to drive by Dealership Row. And in doing so, I saw one brand that had a whole bunch of pickup trucks on its lot. But when I drove through the lot, because I thought that was curious, I wonder if they got an order in or something, but all of them had stickers on the window, which means they are not ordered vehicles for like a fleet sale. So I drove through and had a look at them. Every single one was a 4x2 model. Well, if you live in Wyoming, you do not buy the two-wheel drive version of a pickup truck, or much of anything else for that matter. And so I can see why they have these. They ended up getting them. They have them on the lot. They have stickers in the window for them. So I don't know where they plan to sell these. My real assumption is that they're kind of hoping for a fleet buyer to come through looking for inventory right now. So that's kind of where we're at as far as that goes. Now, when's that going to change? Really good question, but the honest answer is at least a year, probably longer. We're probably looking at 2 to 3 years before we get inventory back to the right level. The reason I say that is not because manufacturers won't be able to figure this out in the next couple of years, because they probably will. They'll probably be back at full production by this time next year. That is the most likely scenario for most manufacturers. And I say that because we have chip makers coming online. We have chip makers that are running in extreme overtime, that are adding production and everything to try to catch up, because right now there's a lot of money in these chips. They have nothing but incentive. So all of those kind of things are going to kind of come together, and we're going to see pretty close to full production by this time next year. The problem is going to be that we're also going to see all these people who've been waiting for vehicles, putting it off because they can't get them, now rushing to get them. And that's going to mean that inventories do not go up. Inventories are going to stay pretty low for quite a while. It's going to take a long time for everything to catch up with itself. So I'm giving it my personal prediction, I'm giving it a minimum of 2 years, probably more like 2.5 to 3. And at that point, I don't know where we're going to be at in terms of buyers, because now we're seeing more and more demand for vehicles that are more difficult to make. Talking about electrics, hybrids, all that kind of stuff. With the push towards electric, we're going to run into more logistics issues. What we're looking at is it's going to take a while. So to get more information, I would recommend, there's no point in me reinventing the wheel. I would recommend reading my friend John Gorham's article on Torque News. I'll link to that down in the description below, and then I'll just move over, put it over here. Put it up here on the screen so you can look at it really quick. This is basically talking about he talked to each of the manufacturers, got some anonymous responses, which is good because they don't like to have their names attached to things that aren't official. Got some anonymous responses from people in the industry working for those manufacturers, and learned a few things. That information ties into what I've been talking about, so it's totally worth clicking down there on that link and reading that article. John did a really good job of digging and building this story. So there you go. That's what I got. Hopefully, Mike, this answers your question. I know it's probably not the answer you were hoping for. There have been a fair number of videos coming out where people are getting all excited, thinking that things are turning around and we're going to be way better. But I just don't see those numbers yet. I think it's going to be quite a while before we're back to what we were used to pre-pandemic. It's going to be a while. So there you go. That's what I got. This has been Aaron. If you have a question, hit me up. Find me down below. Just leave a comment asking your question. Find me on Facebook, Twitter, etc. Make sure that you DM or IM or tag me so that I see it, and I will do my best to respond. All right, talk to you again soon.
Subscribe.